resonates with the essence of our program, the FETP. It is a testament to the dedication that we have put together as residents, alumni, and the lasting impact that we've made in the area of public health, not just in Ghana, within the West Africa sub-region, and even beyond. Today, we are honored to hear from a shining example of this very theme, making the mark, FETP in action. Hearing from one of our accomplished alumni, her journey is a testament to how the skills and the networks that we have built during our FETP training can translate into real-world action and leadership. We are very, very proud of our alumni in general who are making profound marks wherever they find themselves in the area of disease surveillance, outbreak response, and health in general. I want to thank you all for joining us, and I encourage you to listen closely and engage with our resource person and our speaker. I also want to mention that as we are celebrating World Field Epidemiology Day through this webinar, we also have colleagues from the program in South Africa currently, and they have celebrated World Field Epidemiology Day with the South Africa program. We have another group of colleagues in the Zambia currently who have also celebrated the World Field Epidemiology Day with the Zambia program. And I'm sure that they are all on call to join us with their colleagues from South Africa and the Zambia as well. So this is a highly international webinar that we are having today. And I want to thank the FELANG for collaborating with the program to bring this webinar and make it a success. Thank you all, and over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Donne, for your opening remarks on behalf of Professor Ernest Kenu, the director of the Ghana Field Epidemiology and Laboratory Training Program. So last night, as I was looking at the status of some colleagues, I chanced upon one by George Akowiwa, who spoke initially. And every time I see the flyer with the imagery of the sole of a feet, it always brings a certain comfort to me. And it reminds me of a Bible verse which talks about how beautiful on the mountains are the feet of those who bring good news, who proclaim peace, who bring good tidings, who proclaim salvation. While field epidemiologists, our work is grounded in science and data, we too are bearers of good news, okay? So the news of a contained outbreak, the news of a community that has been vaccinated as a result of our work, the news of a life saved through very swift investigation and evidence-based action. So we as epidemiologists also, we bring good news of health, security, and peace of mind to many, many communities across the world. And so it is right and in order for us to be able to celebrate our day. And this has been put together, as mentioned by Dr. Donne, by FELANG and the program. And so we'll move on to the president of FELANG, Dr. Grace Ajua Okanse, to also give her remarks before we listen to our resource person for tonight. So over to you now, Dr. Grace Okanse. Dr. Grace Okanse, if you can hear me, we want you to go ahead and give an opening remark before we move on to. Please unmute me. Okay, so we have to unmute Dr. Okanse. Am I the host? So no worries at all. We'll unmute you. This is a family affair. So
yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
I've been
Beautiful. So this is a family affair. No worries at all. You can relax. No tension.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right.
Already, I was struggling with showing my face in the video session. Then I realized I can also talk. I said, hey.
On a special day like this, our day,
yes, I'm telling you. Really nice seeing you all. Yes, so my apologies that my video is not working. So you'll be able to see my face. Good evening to you all. Last year by this time, we were on fire and we were everywhere. On the 7th of September, we had MPhil screening the people. And the 6th, we were in Hohwe with the UHAS team. And it was really great. And this year, we are celebrating with a webinar. So it's an honor to join you in celebrating, and I mean you as in the program and also all the people internationally, those in South Africa and Zambia, as Dr. Dane has said, in celebrating the World Field Epidemiology Day under the theme, Making Our Mark, FETP in Action. This theme is powerful because it reminds us that the work we do as field epidemiologists goes far beyond data and the reports that we produce. So it's about leaving a lasting impact on communities, on the health systems, and most importantly, on people's lives. So every time we respond to an outbreak, we strengthen surveillance or share knowledge, we are making our mark in building a healthier and safer Ghana. These marks are not temporary, they are footprints of dedication, sacrifice, and service. And as FELANG, we proudly stand with the program. And today we renew our pledge to support its vision of training more residents, expanding field work, and also preparing the next generation of public health leaders. So my fellow FELANG members, I encourage each of us to actively participate in our network activities by engaging fully, sharing our experience as our dear doctor is doing today, and supporting one another. We strengthen our collective voice and ensure that FELANG continues to grow as a family of impact. So let us carry today's theme in our hearts and in every action that we do and make our mark wherever that we are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Grace Ajua Okanse, for this very encouraging words in your opening remarks. So we will be moving on to the real matter for tonight. And I want to welcome all those who have just joined us. We've been talking about the World Field Epidemiology Day and why it is important for us to commemorate it. It's in remembrance of what John Snow did some years ago in London to stop the cholera outbreaks there. And today, it is my immense privilege to have with us a distinguished leader who embodies all the spirit of all that we've said. That as field epidemiology, we are bearers of good news to affected communities, okay? Today we have with us Dr. Esther Dsani, who is the Regional Antimicrobial Resistance Programme Coordinator for the FAO Regional Office for Africa. And so you can see clearly she's on the front lines of one of the most complex and salient health threats that we have, antimicrobial resistance. But before I allow her to speak, we need to give us some background to her so that we can appreciate who she is. So Dr. Esther Dsani is a veterinarian, a laboratory scientist, and epidemiologist. She started a career in Ghana with the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, where she rose to the rank of head of a regional laboratory and in Ho in the Volta region. After receiving extensive training in laboratory diagnostics in Japan and completing an MPhil in applied epidemiology and disease control from the School of Public Health, University of Ghana, she launched a career in research in collaboration with several institutions, including the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. She has made several international conference presentations and was awarded a grant from the International Society for Infectious Diseases to promote research at the human-animal interface in Ghana. Dr. Dsani is also a Fleming Fund Fellowship alumni, having completed advanced training in sequencing and bioinformatics from the Technical University of Denmark. Currently, Dr. Esther Dsani works for the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, with its headquarters in Rome, Italy, as the Regional AMR Programme Coordinator for Sub-Saharan Africa. In addition to coordinating AMR projects in African countries, she is a regular member of the global panel working to reduce the use of antimicrobials in agri-food systems, and she hopes to continue working at the forefront of Antimicrobial Resistance Policy and Research. So this is Dr. Esther Dsani for you. And so without wasting much time, let us listen, learn, and be inspired by the story, the impact story of Dr. Esther Dsani. Dr. Dsani, over to you now.
Thank you very much. Can I be heard clearly?
Yes, you can be heard and seen clearly.
Okay. So thank you very much, Leadership of GFELT, for giving me this opportunity. When Dr. Done called, I was exhibiting some resistance because I thought it was too early in the journey to be given this honor. Nevertheless, thank you so much. I will try to the best of my ability to narrate my side of the story, and then hopefully that would inspire someone. So I prepared just a few slides. Can I share my screen in this case? So can you see my screen?
Yes, Dr. Dsani, we can see your screen, yes.
Okay, so it's just a few slides. I'm aware there are some questions, there's going to be a question and answer session afterwards. So I try to make it very brief, just to share my story as it is. So who is Esther? I always consider myself a veterinarian first, an epidemiologist as well second, and then a laboratory scientist in that order. I'm affiliated to several institutions, a food and agriculture organization being the primary one. I also work with Ndubuchi, and then also have worked several years for the Veterinary Services Department of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. So when he asked me to speak about my impact story, as we are celebrating World Field Epidemiology Day, I was thinking what to say. So in my mind, I just thought to split it into these things, to talk a bit about my life before I enrolled into the GFELT program, my GFELT experience and lessons, and then life as an alumni, which will be combined with my current projects and initiatives. So the slides will not have these exact headings, but this is going to be the sequence, or the logical sequence of the narration. So for those who do not know me, I obtained my degree in veterinary medicine in Russia. So I went there as a young girl. I think I was about 17 years old. This was sometime around 2008. I wouldn't want to bore you with the details of what a veterinary program entails, but I just thought to talk about the main highlights of my stay there as it pertains to the theme of this webinar. As a student, the program was rigorous. There was the aspect of a cultural shock, adapting, being far from home, learning a new language, but somehow you find your forte and then you sail through. So I'm glad to say that not only did I survive it, I excelled. But I would want to talk about my research highlights. So before this time, I grew up like anyone else in Ghana, and I didn't really have any specific research interest or know what that was. But I remember in the second year of vet school, a professor came and said, oh, we are looking for a student to intern in a green algae lab. And I volunteered. Nobody else was volunteering. So I went to this lab. I was an intern. I learned about how they were trying to use green algae to supplement cattle feed as protein. And I spent quite some time in that lab. And for me, that was the beginning of an interest, some kind of interest in research work in general. In terms of research, during my days in veterinary school, I did research work on a parasitic disease called Diphtheria, that is like heartworm in dogs. And then my main thesis was on bovine tuberculosis in Ghana. So I would travel between Russian Federation and Ghana. And both of these were done at the Department of Epidemiology. And so that's why I thought to mention that here, because I feel like to some extent that interest or inclination towards epidemiology may have started over there. And of course, just being in Russia or studying as a foreign student in Russia gives you some level of academic resilience and general life resilience. So when I returned from my veterinary studies, I started off as a veterinary surgeon in the municipal clinic in Ho, very small clinic. There was not much available there for work, but then the demand for the service was there. And then I transitioned shortly after, about a year or two, to the regional veterinary laboratory, where I eventually rose through the ranks to become the regional veterinary officer. So my roles were mainly, so most veterinarians in Ghana are involved in some form of mixed practice. So you're not just a small animal vet or a large animal vet as you would have in the Western world. You're doing everything. You're doing cattle surgeries, you're doing horses, you're doing pigs, you're doing sheep, you're doing poultry, you're doing snakes, you're doing people's pet lizards, you're doing monkeys. So it's mixed practice. And that in itself can pose a challenge for a very young veterinarian who may have studied elsewhere. But besides the routine clinical work, I had additional responsibilities, mainly because the affiliate staff workforce for the veterinary services wasn't really developed at the time. So you don't have your own set of administrators or other kind of staff. So in addition to doing all the routine work, I was also responsible for collating monthly disease reports, preparing annual reports on scheduled diseases. These are diseases that have been prioritized as important for the animal health sector in Ghana. Then, of course, you also support vaccination campaigns, and then you support outbreak investigations, whether you do have the skill or not. But just to say that all these roles and responsibilities are very usual for anyone working in the veterinary workforce in Ghana. It wasn't anything special at the time. But the main things that I learned from my time in the veterinary service, I would say, is first of all, how to work in teams. If you look at the amount of effort it takes to even restrain one cow, the number of people it takes, the amount of collaboration needed and understanding, that's on the field. Then there's also in the clinic, there's also in the lab, there's also in terms of managing the human resource. So working in teams is something I picked on really early. And then another one also, how to create an enabling environment for staff to participate in decision-making. So as a young vet, when I came back from school, I had all these ambitions of I had my own opinions of what was the right way. And you quickly learn that you have to make other people take ownership of the vision and not just make it your vision. And then you can get things done a bit more quickly. And then I also learned to communicate professionally, but over here, I'd rather say to different kinds of stakeholders. So you're dealing with butchers, you're dealing with farmers, you're dealing with different categories of farmers, large-scale farmers who have a lot of money and have very large farms. And then you're also dealing with small-scale farmers who are just making ends meet, different levels, pet owners, those that have local dogs and those that have foreign breeds, all behave in different ways. And so you are learning to communicate to these different groups. And then you are dealing with different situations. There are those who are coming with their pets for animal welfare reasons or for health concerns. There are those who are coming with food animals and have an economic intention or motive. And you are having to adjust how you interact with each group based on their priorities, your priorities, and what is necessary for public health and food safety. And then there's conflict resolution among your staff, and then also with your clientele. So I now will jump to my MPhil story. So before I'd say that of the roles that I mentioned in VET, even though I was collating reports, I didn't really have any understanding or knowledge of tools for data analysis, for example, or templates, or how to develop survey questions or anything of that nature. Even though we would support outbreak investigations, it was more out of necessity. It's not as if you knew what reports had to be written, how they were supposed to be written, whom you were supposed to report to. So we were doing the work as frontline staff, but we didn't have the skills and tools. My first encounter with the GFEL story would be the frontline training that was held in the Volta region in 2015. I don't know if the GFEL Secretariat would remember, but that was the very first time we were being trained on how to use Excel. I mean, not how to use Excel, but how to properly utilize the functions of Excel to analyze data in the simplest terms. And that was really, I would say, even though I had, of course, done epidemiology in veterinary school, I would say this was the first real opportunity to link that theoretical aspect with real life scenarios so that you could understand how this is beneficial for your work. And so even in the same frontline year, there was an outbreak of avian influenza in Denu and Kita, and I could already see how the frontline training was beginning to influence our handling of that outbreak. I joined the advanced program from 2017 to 2019 based on a nomination from the department. And my initial reaction was, oh, public health, everyone does public health, because I knew vets who had done public health, a few, but it seemed like a public health related field that many people do. And so as a vet, sometimes the goal is to do a clinical specialization that sets you apart. It did not seem like an attractive option to do something at that time, of course. It didn't seem like an attractive option to do something that everyone was doing. But again, one of the things I did, I spoke to people, I spoke to vets who had done the program, even vets who had not done the program. I spoke to other people in the public health sector who knew something about the program, and then I made the final decision to enroll, which eventually did change my life, I can say now. So the GFELTP program, most of you know it, so I didn't think it was necessary to go through the details of the program in terms of the curriculum. But for me, what came out of it for me, so I learned how to conduct a surveillance system evaluation. In my case, I did that for anthrax. I traveled to the north, collected all the data, presented this work, and this work was also presented in international conferences. Then there was outbreak investigations, learning for the first time how to actually conduct an outbreak investigation, analyze data, in the case of secondary data analysis. And then for me, the height of it was choosing a research topic. So as a vet, there was always, or you can do rabies, or you can do anthrax. And I think that about that time, I had heard about antimicrobial resistance, but it was an upcoming field. A lot of work has been done on AMR in the human health sector, although they may argue it's still not enough. But for the animal health sector at that time, we were still really behind. And so I couldn't find any information on AMR, but it did seem like a promising area. And there was that curiosity of a young scientist or researcher to know, like, what is this AMR and how does it affect animals? We know that antimicrobials are used in food animals. Does it spill over to humans? Does it have effects for the environment? And so even though there wasn't much data on it and there was not enough knowledge of people who had done any kind of AMR research, at least for the animal health sector, I still decided to do AMR research. Of course, at that time, I didn't know it would become a whole career, so to say. So forgot to mention, shout out to colleagues from cohort 11, Irene and Co, who have joined. I put a picture of you. I just showed a few pics of a section of our classmates. And then I think the middle picture is an outbreak investigation we did in Kwewu, was for avian influenza during our time as students of the program. So another thing about this time, my time at the Ghana FELTP Epidemiology and Laboratory Training Program, is that I did a lot of research. So once I decided I was going to do AMR research, I got linked to primary principal researchers at the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, Dr. Bebili Ejir and team. There was already a lot of ongoing research, and there was a need for the animal health component to be completed. And so I was happy to join on board. We did a lot of work investigating MRSA transmission between farm attendants and livestock in northern Ghana. Preliminary work had been done on this in southern Ghana. We went ahead to do a lot of work on ESBLs, VREs, name it, the list is endless, in food animals, all species, cattle, goat, sheep, pigs. And this was a new area. First of all, there wasn't data on this. I mean, I know we don't want to say there was no data, but there was almost no data on this. And then the things that we were discovering in the lab, they were quite interesting. And so I was these were good times. I would travel willingly, interact. And then I was also learning to apply my new epidemiology skills. So even though I had not completed the program, I was having to design my own data forms. I was having to analyze the data myself. I was having to apply statistical tests to the data I'd collected. So for me, it was all exciting. And then I was expanding my scope of partnerships, meeting new teams and working with them. And this same partnerships that were created extended beyond the program. Even when I did my FLEMING Fund Fellowship, I was able to be hosted there, and I was able to be supported throughout the process. And as the moderator mentioned, as a result of the decision to do AMR research, I won the International Society for Infectious Disease grant for 2019, and part of that funding was used to expand the scope of the work. So we started with we did work in slaughterhouses. We started from the Tema areas, we moved to the Accra areas. And so I consider my decision to do antimicrobial resistance research in doing my GFELTP program as very pivotal to how far I have come now as an individual. And yeah. So besides the outbreak investigations and the outputs, the exams, the research work, and all the pressures that come, the thing about this program is it's really comprehensive in nature. You're exposed to a large network group. You're able to present your work at in both local and international conferences. So most of my cohort members were selected, including me, of course, to for the 7th AFENET conference that was held in Maputo. It was a crowning moment for me. I won an award. I was very, very happy for that. And then we also attended the 10th AFENET Global Scientific Conference in Atlanta that year. Those were the two of the three main international conferences that did happen at the time of our studies. And I really just like the spirit of the camaraderie we had, the cohort learning, just having a cohort of colleagues with shared vision, yet coming from diverse sectors was really new, but also really welcoming. So how would I describe what I did benefit from the program? I would say definitely skills in data management. Yes, before I joined the program, I could collect data, but I didn't know about the tools. I didn't know the right way to do it. I didn't know about templates. I didn't have any data management skills. So as much as I was well-trained, I could say veterinarian from somewhere in Kazan, 6 hours south of Moscow, I certainly didn't have any data management skills. Outbreak investigations were at our doorstep because Ghana is endemic for many diseases, both zoonotic and animal-only diseases, but we didn't have any outbreak investigation skills. I was learning about notification reports for the very first time in my life and learning to write these and learning about the feedback loops and etc. And then an enhanced understanding of disease surveillance, also foundation for public health research, all the basics that you are given through the first year courses in School of Public Health. I came later to learn that they really do give you a solid foundation when it comes to public health research. You're able to sit in meetings, you're able to question people's hypotheses and way of thinking, because you just really do have that solid public health research background. It also expands your scope of, it has expanded my scope, it did expand my scope of understanding other health disciplines. So before I joined the GFELTP program, I could not have been able to say a word about yellow fever or drug-resistant TB or polio or something that is not in my area of work. And so having that opportunity, I came to find out later when I started working for FAO, where you have to sit in all these One Health meetings and you all have to collectively develop plans and sometimes implement them. You come to appreciate why understanding at least the basics of other health disciplines in this case is important. And I presume this goes also for our health colleagues. And then, of course, introduction to effective communication skills. It didn't seem like a subject that I appreciated much at the time. This subject we had on communication, it seems we had this very interesting lecturer and all that, but that was one of the courses that I really came to appreciate also later. And then you have all the networking opportunities. But the most important one for me, what I would say this program did for me, was the overall acuity to see problems at the population level and to see beyond the specific scenario and to start asking questions about patterns and why it's happening and what may be related to what and what may be confounding what or what may be influencing what decision. So that overall acuity for problem for analyzing a problem from a population viewpoint, I would say is one of the things I got from the course. Were there challenges? Yes. The default program, I don't know for others, but if I have to speak for myself, it's not an easy course. It was not an easy course for me. And it did seem like it was a bit intensive because you have the academic program, then you have all these field outputs, then you have seminars, and some things seem related, some feel like unrelated. It's quite intense if you do not prepare well. But how would I say I mitigated these? So you have to plan and you have to work with your mentors. So I was very lucky. I think Dr. Alina Akwa was one of my mentors, and she told me earlier on that manage your expectations. Don't go and do a topic that is trying to solve all the problems in the world. Make sure you do a topic that is interesting enough, impactful enough, but at the same time, you finish school. And as simple as these words sounded at the time, they did seem to do a lot for me in terms of completing my course on time and then excelling. And so you manage your expectations. And then the cohort study groups, I know my colleagues from cohort 11 remember all those after class hours that we spent in groups trying to understand the statistic problem or explain or to share our own experiences of understanding of whatever challenge it was. So we had a lot of small core study groups. It wasn't a specially designed group. It just formed naturally as the difficulties evolved. And then utilize all the available resources. There you have the GFEL Secretariat, you have the lectures, you have the library, you have e-learning, e-books. There's a lot at hand. And if you do make use of these resources and you work again with your mentors and then with the Secretariat, you're more likely to succeed. So this is a very simple slide. Immediately after the program, I returned back to work as a veterinarian in Ho, but what I noticed was my roles had changed a bit. So before I joined the program, things like training were not in my work plan, but now I was doing a lot more trainings for my staff, because not just because I had just the technical knowledge, but the how to conduct the training, how to engage an audience. And then my stakeholder groups were increasing. So now I was able to, before I joined the school, I wouldn't have been able to address butchers or give a speech on anything. But now I was able to organize my speech, give them, create awareness for different categories of stakeholders, not just on AMR, but in the area of veterinary medicine in general. And then the AMR work was also climbing at a height. So I was still working and collaborating with Noguchi on all the research partnerships. And then I would be heavily involved in the World Antimicrobial Awareness Day, something that I do to date. So I returned to work as a veterinarian for another 2 years before I was appointed. I was given an international duty post to Sierra Leone. That was my very first FAO role. So I know I'm going a bit over time, sorry. So the second part of my life as an alumni, I'll try to summarize my work for FAO. It's been 4 years, or I think 5 years. It's a bit difficult to put 5 years of work or 4 years of work into words, but I will try to do my best. And so I was first recruited as a country project coordinator. Someone may ask, this may not have been possible if I did not have a FETP degree, because before I joined the FETP program, as someone with just pure technical knowledge of veterinary science, you cannot effectively be a program coordinator. A program coordinator, you're managing staff, you're managing resources. You have to have technical knowledge of your field, but you also have to know how to communicate with donors. You have to know how to network. The list is endless. But it was a good balance in the end, because I found that I was still doing my veterinary work. What do I mean by my veterinary work? I was still supporting outbreak investigations in the field. I was still supporting laboratory trainings. I was still doing lab assessments. But then there were the additional roles of having to communicate with stakeholders, having to engage with the government, having to develop policy documents, develop surveillance protocols, conduct or support surveillance data analysis, because you have to know that you have to have the technical know-how. And then there were new roles of having to train people, having to organize all these training workshops, having to help people design surveys, data collection tools. For me, I would say I had the best of it, because everything I had learned in the default program was coming into play or was needed at that point. After 2 years in Sierra Leone, I was sort of recruited. I don't say it's a little promotion to the headquarters. So I was recruited again as a, not recruited, but sort of transferred to the headquarters as an antimicrobial use and AMR specialist to support a global project. And they wanted to develop tools so that they could reach hundreds and thousands of veterinary paraprofessionals in Uganda and Nigeria, and then to develop a One Health course on preventive practices that would reach several thousands of veterinary paraprofessionals. This we did in 2023. We were able to reach over 4,000 animal health workers in several countries in East and Western Africa, primarily with this course. And so this was another thing for someone who had worked as a lab field clinic veterinarian. It was the GFELTP program that would have equipped me with the tools to adapt to all of these changing needs, because you're no longer the lab vet or the clinic vet. You are now working with diverse teams from Australia, Italy, wherever, to design tools, programs, and especially when it comes to data management and presentation. Those are some of the courses I really did appreciate, and communication. And so before I joined the GFELTP program, I doubt I could have been able to support any team to develop a communication product or material, or to review the materials and say, well, I don't think this is going to reach the target audience. I found myself remembering things like, okay, what is the single overriding communication objective here, and all that. And these are things that came out of my GFELTP training. And then I was again asked to support several countries in Central Asia on AMR. So there were not many people in the field of AMR, and then they wanted me to do. So I traveled a lot in 2023 also, or 4, to several countries. The list is really long. So I'd support the countries to develop their national action plans. If the national action plan exists on AMR, but the coordination mechanism is not as comprehensive, I'll give that advice. I'll do laboratory assessments. And there are times when I would even go alone. Usually when you're going for an assessment, you would have to be in a team, but it so happened that some of these regions didn't even have a team. I would go and then train them first, and then they'll train themselves so that I have to stop traveling to that country. And then I was still doing the normal field work. If there's an outbreak, I'm called. Then there's also the policy side where you're meeting, like the last picture below, it's a health ministers conference that was held in Malawi this year. You're meeting vice presidents, you're meeting the heads of affiliate institutions, and you have to know what to say, you have to know what to communicate, you have to know how to network at that level to have some impact on your program or on the countries that you want to support. And the last thing I want to mention, I've also had in the last 2 years to develop a lot of knowledge products for the Food and Agriculture Organization. So it can be a technical report, it can be a manual. Most recently, for 6 months, I was the lead author in developing an e-learning course called the Progressive Management Pathway for AMR. This is a global course. I can drop the link later in the chat. If you had asked me 4 years ago, I wouldn't think someone like me could be doing that, to be the lead author in developing an e-learning course, a global e-learning course for AMR, considering my background, but here we are. So I just try to make the slides as simple as possible. So I have some key takeaways. I think I'm running out of time. I think that if you ask me, now I know that the GFELTP program is practical and service-oriented. At the time where students would complain a lot, would say it's hard, you just want to finish school. But now I see it differently. It's practical and service-oriented in the sense that it prepares you for your work. It's not one of those programs that are just another master's degree or another MPhil. It's really catered for the needs of the fields that most of us find ourselves in, whether you're a medic, whether you're a lab scientist, whether you're a veterinarian like me, or whether you're a food safety specialist. This course really does cater for your practical needs. You have a lot of field-based experiences that are useful for your everyday work. And then it prepares you to be versatile and adapt to changing roles. There was a time where veterinary services, everything was paper-based. When they started moving to electronic-based systems, you would need to have had something like an MPhil degree to know what tools to use, how to manage those electronic databases. And then it prepares you to certainly be a leader in your field. and it equips you for principal research roles. As a principal researcher, your work goes beyond just basic research to trying to understand the pattern. So if you're a microbiologist, it's okay to document that you found a gene, but we are more interested in what is the determinant of that gene, or how is that gene mapped or distributed. And so even in microbiology, when it comes to AMR, I mean, you're seeing the move and the shift towards genomics, bioinformatics, and so forth. So it equips you all round so that you don't just become a basic researcher, whichever field you find yourself in, but you're able to manage teams because you just are able to understand the scope of research in full. And then it creates opportunities for partnerships. So you have your GFELT alumni network, you attend conferences, you meet people, and then you always have this community of alumni that you can fall on for different skill sets. So if you need someone people would often ask me, can I draw a map? I mean, not anymore, but in the past, people say, can you draw a map for me? Can you? So you can fall on each other to do things, and then you can also ask for advice. I think there was a time I had to send a manuscript to Dr. Basil to just cross-check to see if the statistical approach there was correct, and he came and did some corrections. And so you always have this network of people that can guide your everyday work, and also that can help you to expand your partnerships and your collaboration. So I think that this is my last slide. I will stop here, and then thank you very much. So the moderator, over to you, please.
Hello, Dr. Dane. We seem to have lost Dr. Diodu, so if you can kindly take over.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Dsani, for this insight. Very, very exciting presentation. We really enjoyed it. And I think that there are some questions on the minds of everybody else, but we may not be able to take all the questions, but we'll just take a few from.
All right.
So I can see that you've had a very interesting journey in your career. Okay, Dr. Gideon, kindly go ahead.
Okay. So forgive me. I was on another device and I couldn't unmute myself. Sorry. So sorry, but it's a family affair. So wow. In my church, we'll say, wow.
Hello?
This is
okay. It appears.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are loud.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. So this is a really, really impactful story from Dr. Esther Dsani. Really impactful, and you can clearly see she's indeed making her mark on the global stage. And this is not FETP in action. This is Ghana Field Epidemiology and Laboratory Training Program in action on the global stage. So we are really excited to hear from you. Grateful to you for sharing your story with us. You mentioned quite a number of things. I want you to react to this with an applause. Use the react button to show your love and appreciation of the story that she shared with us. So you can clap, you can show your love emoji and all of that. Beautiful. So I remember 2015 like it was yesterday at that frontline training. I was there. You remember? I came all the way from Hohoe in the company of Dr. Joyce there and others to facilitate that one. And I remember unassuming, you would hardly answer a question unless you are called to do that. But then I'm not surprised you've risen to the level that you are occupying now. I'm not surprised at all because Dr. Done and I have been making fun behind the back of those who train in Russia and Ukraine and others, that there's a certain trait that you have. I mean, you mentioned that word, resilience, because I've been married to a Ghana for more than 10 years. I cannot even speak Ghana. And I've been working in the Volta region over 10 years. I can't speak ever. So for you to be able to go to a town like Kazan, the name itself frightens me, bro. Kazan, to learn the language and to do veterinary medicine, that is a real impactful story that you have. But then there are a few questions that we want to ask you to be able to bring out the story even clearer. So in the FETP training, the frontline training that you were selected, I'm sure, by the region for you to be part of that training. But we want to know why then did you decide to apply to do the advanced level training? Was there anything that really inspired you in the front line that got you to come in for the advanced level training? Yes. So that would be my first question to you.
Okay, do I answer now?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so I would say two things. I was in the line of work where the demand for such skills were in your face every day. So like I said earlier, we are frontline workers, you're always having these outbreaks. It's clear that these are not being handled or managed well. And so there was that need, there was that acknowledgement that this is a need. Then there was also the interest. So if you remember, I said in during my vet school days in Russia, I actually did defend my thesis in the Faculty of Department of Epidemiology, and I actually was on very good terms with my lecturer, who was an epidemiologist. So I think in that sense, there was a bias already towards epidemiology in that sense. And then to compound it, there was also this ever-present need to solve problems in the field.
Yeah.
I hope it answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting. So that's what
the front line was also a catalyst. The frontline training was a catalyst because perhaps if I didn't go through the frontline training, maybe the opportunity would have come in now, not. But having gone through that frontline training, presenting that report, it was also on avian influenza data analysis. That process sort of more likely made me feel like I was ready. I should pursue this program. Yeah.
All right. All right. So that was a story for most field epidemiologists who eventually moved on to do the advanced level. You've mentioned a number of technical skills that you picked up in the training. In 2 years, competency, the outputs, and all the deliverables of the program. So beyond these technical skills, what was a key leadership or communication lesson you learned during your time in the program that has been impactful in your career progression so far? So just beyond the technical, analyzing your data and all of that, what other leadership and communication lessons can you share with us? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll start with the communication. So during the program, we learn about different types of audiences. Now, for most of us, or for people like me, even though we had diverse client groups, they were still the same category somehow. But then when you move on to the roles that I moved into afterwards, 1 minute you are in the field having to deliver a speech to farmers. The next minute you are talking to donors at the UK Department of Health and Social Care on the future of the country's funding. The next minute you are discussing with a design team on what communication product to design. And so you learn, and then you learn situational awareness. You learn other things that enhance your work. You have to be versatile in that sense, and that may not come very easily if you have not had that exposure to learning on target audiences, on communication skills, or on the entire course in general that we would have gone through. That's an example I'd give. In terms of leadership, now the GFELTP program itself, it's a race in the sense that if you're able to plan, that process itself teaches you something. If you're able to enroll, you're able to plan your life, you're able to pass all your exams on time, you're able to submit your outputs on time, you're able to defend your thesis, you're able to rationalize, analyze, learn to network, learn to work with mentors. That in itself, if you would ask me, is preparing you for some form of leadership role should you succeed in the program. So there is that. And then there's also the resources that we had a course, management and leadership. So there's also the theoretical resources that you have that you can also pursue to know more about how you can be a leader. But certainly for me, I know that having come as a pure technical vet from the lab, had I not have had the opportunity to be in such a comprehensive program, it may have been difficult to start deciding staff salaries, managing communication, managing engagement, all at the same time pleasing the farmer, pleasing students, pleasing the government.
Yeah.
This does give you some foundation. It may not give you everything, but it certainly did lay the foundation for the work that came after.
All right, so maybe the next one will be about networks. But before I ask that question, there are many of your colleagues who are here. So shout out to cohort 11, Dr. Dsani and the others. Shout out to all of you.
I can't see them, that's why I'm a bit...
You can't see them, okay. So shout out to cohort 11. It used to be cohort 4. Oh, it's most popular, but it looks like cohort 11 is competing with us now. But I want to talk about the network that you built during your time in the program, because in your initial remarks, you mentioned that when Dr. Donne called you to take up this, until last week, I didn't know where you were. I mean, I'll go to Ho, and then I'll just say, it's been a long time I saw Esther. Dr. Dsani, is she around? So I'm sure definitely some of your mentors have been following your career progression and all of that, but how has the professional network you built during your time in the program with faculty, with your peers and your mentors helped you in this trajectory that you are on, your career so far?
Very much directly, not indirectly. So, for example, by liaising with the principal researchers who at the time were working at Noguchi on AMR, almost everything that happened afterwards. So winning the ISID grant that was hosted there, conferences, other research projects, other research collaborations, the Fleming Fund and Bioinformatics Sequencing Fellowship, all hosted by the very same mentors that supported my journey. So there's also the really direct one, and it extends even Dr. Donne, Professor Kinu, who will attest to how many times I would have called them, would have discussed something that is relevant to my professional life and growth. So very directly. And also I had an opportunity I had a teaching stint for a very short time at the school. And I did meet some amazing students who ended up being in my beneficiary countries, like, Dr. Bori, now you have Samba, you have Dr. Leno. These are people I worked with, Khadija also. There's a direct one, and there's also indirectly expanding your scope of people who you can work with.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have the model that we do have at GFELT, it may have been a bit difficult. We all see each other as family, and it makes things very, very easy.
Very easy. I mean, your first lecture with Prof. Afari, you say, you are colleagues, And we are like, how can we be colleagues? We're not even born when you were a soldier. So that is so true. The network really helps in all of our careers. And I remember when I joined UHAS, the interview that was done, immediately I entered the room, half of the panel there were all my faculty from SPH. And you can imagine, I just settled in and I went through it quite successfully. So that is really helpful. But then there's a question in the chat box about AMR. So maybe I should ask the questions about AMR. So your background is a doctor of veterinary medicine from Russia. So how has that actually shaped your approach to tackling antimicrobial resistance? Why AMR in the first place? What drew you there? Yeah.
So as a vet, before a public health school, I wouldn't say, before I completed my vet school, I didn't think anything of it. Like everyone, you have a course in microbiology and that's it. Of course, they did mention AMR at some point, but it was really when I started working in the Volta region that it became apparent that there was a problem. So the vet paraprofessionals, or whom we call the technicians, would say, doc, fluoxetine used to work 3 years ago. Now it doesn't work at all. It doesn't do anything. So it was becoming apparent that the drugs are not working, but nobody seemed to understand what was happening. And then personally too, one time I was working in the lab and the farmer came, he had bought all the drugs in the world. He was losing all his beds. By this time I had gained some skills in testing for AMR. And that was the first time I was shocked to see that out of, I think, 12 antibiotics, the E. coli that we had isolated was resistant to like 11 out of the 12, except gentamicin.
Yes.
And that for me, and then that was the day even my lab staff said, hey, doctor, we now understand there's really a problem. And for this guy, we had to literally pass the injectable dose from across before his pet stopped dying. And this was because the gentamicin for poultry at that time was injectable and he had exhausted all the powder preparations. So what I'm trying to say is that there was the lived-in field experience where it was obvious that there was a problem. The medications were failing, and then also we could see, started seeing things in the lab that the drugs are not working. They're not sensitive. They're not to the antibiotics they should be. So in school, no, I didn't know much. It more of stemmed from my field experience and then knowledge of the sector.
Okay. So clearly AMR is the quintessential One Health problem. But I remember in the frontline training, one of the things that Prof. Afari does well is he will ask you, which district are you coming from? And then you say, I'm from, let's say, KJB. And then we'll ask you. So especially to the human health side, either the disease control officer or the medical officer, do you know the name of the veterinary officer in your district? And for most of us, we didn't know, we had never met them and all of that. So at the level where you play down at FAO, do you see the same challenge? Is there, what's the biggest challenge in getting human health, animal health, and environmental sectors, not to talk about collaboration, but to actually operate in a truly integrated way on the ground? Is this something that is working at that level? Because it doesn't even work at a sub-district level. So I'm wondering at that stage how it happens.
I think yes and no. So, for example, there's a global quadripartite, there's a regional quadripartite. So at the regional level, we have WHO as a member, we have UNEP as a member, we have WA, which is the World Organization for Animal Health. Then we have FAO. Then you have other partners like AU, IPO, Africa CDC. So we are trying. So at that level, what they would usually do is to develop joint plans to support countries. But as you can imagine, if there are no foot soldiers on the ground for some of these organizations, and even where there are foot soldiers, letting that trickle down to the ground may not be as easy as it looks. So from what I've seen, there is an attempt, an effort at global and regional level to collaborate. Now, when it comes to countries and districts, what we've seen is that it's based on individual and personal discretion. So, for example, there isn't a system or a mandate for anyone to do that. So, for example, when I was in Ho, after the frontline training, now we knew each other. Before frontline, we didn't know who was vet and who was disease control officer. But we formed a friendship, and so now the disease control or human health counterpart will come and call me for a rabies investigation. And I would also do, vice versa, as we deem necessary. But the problem is this is based more on personal relationships of knowing each other, and not based on a structured system where this must be more of mandatory and not an option that people can choose to have.
Exactly.
So so this is what I can say about it. At global level, efforts are being made. It may not be trickling down to the ground level as it should. And at the ground level too, there's no structure, there's no system. It's based on interpersonal relationships.
Yes, okay. So I'm looking into the chat box and there's a technical question there. I think you need pen and paper to be able to answer. It's an examination question from Samuel Amakwao. He says, how can a One Health system for managing AMR be effectively integrated into existing district level structures in Africa, ensuring collaboration among environmental health, veterinary services, and the Ghana Health Service to address the determinants of AMR? I told you. But very much like the question I asked previously. So yeah, so that is it. But there are about 69 of us here on the call, but I see only one question. So I'll encourage all of you who have questions for Dr. Esther to put it there. We've gone far beyond our time, all right, but it's exciting. So we want to stay here for a while. It's a family affair. All right, so you can answer that now. Yes, Dr. Dsani.
I thought you were giving me a pass. But so
No.
what I can say though, I don't know if I can answer it fully, but what I can say though is with One Health, we're not trying to disintegrate existing structures. There are different levels of convergence or working together. There's a level of just sharing data or information together. There's a level of actually going into the field together. Or so there are different points of convergence when it comes to One Health work across different sectors. So in any case, we are trying to see how best the existing systems can be integrated into one. So for example, if human health has a data management system or for reporting diseases, and animal health has one, and environmental health has one, we're not saying that they should all abandon their systems and have one where they all report to, because there may be a challenge for animal health to report their data directly to human health or vice versa. but we should be talking about how to make these systems interoperable. So even when you collect your data, so first you have to strengthen your own systems. So after you have strengthened your system, you've collected your data and you have your system, but how can the systems be interoperable? So there's a lot of effort that has been made to have integrated AMR surveillance systems, and this really is the focus, not to create a separate data system per se, but for what exists, how can we bring it all together, even if it means collecting it in different stages. Then at what points or how often will we share the data we have so that everyone knows what's happening in other sectors, depending on what is relevant for you to know, because you don't need to know everything. So when it comes to working across One Health sectors on AMR, this is practically what I can say is we have some funding opportunities at the regional level that are only given to countries that have demonstrated that they work together using the One Health approach. And what do we mean by they work together? If the animal health people are conducting surveillance in chickens, and then maybe the human health sectors should also link their surveillance activities to, or in the case of animal health, is poultry the most consumed product in that city. So there must be a linkage with the work. So there are different ways of linking One Health work. It doesn't mean we must all go and take the same sample, but at the end of the day, I'm conducting surveillance, AMR surveillance, AMR surveillance, with understanding that in this district, most human beings consume poultry. So of all the animals I must do AMR on here, I probably should start with poultry because drugs are being used, the more human beings consume it. And we are linking our surveillance objectives together. And we are also testing for the same organisms. We are harmonizing our methods. It's more of that understanding, harmonizing our protocols as much as possible, and having a platform for data sharing. This is what I can say for now.
For now, yes. So we have a platform. What's our platform? You can answer some of the questions there. But then someone you know quite well, Ahmed Foray Samba, says, thank you very much, Dr. Esther Dsani, for the kind, motivating story. I know you are an excellent woman for good works. Your 2 years in Sierra Leone created huge impact, strengthened animal health sector, AMR surveillance, and laboratory capacities. Well done, Esther. So then
Sierra Leone, what had happened was there wasn't any AMR generated in the animal health sector before that particular Fleming Fund project. So that was more of the focus. And I think that exactly with Samba's help, they were able to generate AMR data for the first time in the animal health sector.
Beautiful, beautiful. So William Boama says, with all the achievements, is there anything you would do differently if you are given a chance? Maybe I should tie it in with another question, because we always seek to improve on the program. So there's a question where, are there any gaps in your FETP training that you would have to fill through personal development or other experiences since you graduated? So did you feel inadequate in any way when you got to that global stage and you felt that if this was something you had received from the training from the GFELTP, it would have been better? Do you remember anything like that? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Nothing comes to mind immediately. What I can say, one for myself, I would have taken some of the other courses. Not that I didn't take the courses seriously, but there were some I would have taken a little more seriously. Knowing everything I know now. And then maybe what I can add is to create more fora for alumni to interact beyond the WhatsApp, but maybe in person or something, and to share more impact stories, because I believe most of my cohort members also have their own impact stories and would want to hear of them. But I don't think we get these opportunities as often as we. So maybe that's something.
So we need to create a platform for more people to share their impact stories, to motivate the others. So there's a question from your mother, and I would have been surprised if she didn't ask a question. So this one is from Dr. Helena Aqua from cohort 4. So she says, for One Health to be implemented effectively, there are various processes for a country to go through. There are guidelines now for us to go through, the SIS, OTF. Okay, these are veterinary stuff. Congratulations, Esther. You make me proud with your achievement. From Dr. Helena Aqua, your mentor. Dr. Helena, thank you. Ebenezer Mensah, the grand mentor, it says there is an AMR surveillance platform, and currently the labs involved are doing AMR external quality assurance. One Health, very good collaboration, he says. And we know also about his collaborations with the veterinary side during the COVID-19 pandemic. and it saved the Western region from bringing samples all the way to Noguchi. That collaboration helped greatly. So thank you, Ebenezer Mensah. So last 2 questions before you go, but I saw someone enter the meeting. I'll give him opportunity to speak soon. But so what advice would you give to a current FETP resident who is on the call, who wants to follow a similar career path as yours? What will be your words to such a person?
So the main thing I would say to the current residents is to adopt a whole of program approach during their time at GFELT, not to pick and choose which courses to like or to invest more energy in, because like I said, they'll come to realize that you need all of those courses, and you would wish you had been, whether it's data or whatever tool it is, you would wish you would have been perfect in it then and not be surprised by it later in life. So just to adopt a whole of program approach in terms of what they want to get out of the course, and also to make use of the resources, even including human resources. We have the GFELT Secretariat is very supportive of timelines and of your plan as a student there. And also to manage your expectations. You can still make an impact with your research work without trying to do everything all over the place. And so just to be focused, choose something that's meaningful and impactful, make use of your available resources, which you have in the Secretariat and then the faculty you have there. And more importantly, just adopt a whole of program approach, even the seminars. Whatever is thrown at you, take it to World Cup and
So that's the keyword, World Cup. Take it to World Cup and take advantage of every resource that is available. Thank you so much. So this year's, for those who just joined us, this year's World Field Epidemiology Day, the theme is Making the Mark, FETP in Action. And clearly the story that we've heard from Dr. Esther Dsani resonates very well with this year's theme. It's as if they looked at your story and came up with the theme. So we are grateful for sharing your story with us. There are many, as you said, impact stories that we will find a way to be able to listen to inspire those who are coming, and even for us, to inspire us to do better. All right, so I saw someone enter the meeting. Professor Ken, whose name was mentioned earlier, if he's still with us. Prof, we would love to hear from you before we close this meeting. It's 6:51. Gone way beyond our time, but we would love to hear from you. Over to you, Prof. Ernest Kenneth.
Sorry, I think I'm in another meeting conference here. It's quite noisy here. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear.
What that I want to say is that
yes,
we are very proud of every single one of you for what you've been doing and supporting the field epidemiology training program. I will also urge that there are a lot of international opportunities that we all need to apply for. We're in a conference now, and it's so sad that when you look at the quota for Ghanaians, when it comes to FETP in number of areas, we are not applying for the positions, and therefore we are not up there when you look at the quota. So I think we'll be pushing and deliberately pushing each other to make sure that we apply for some of these positions. And at the end, it will help us to make our mark in the international field. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Kenu, for the use of the word deliberate. So we'll watch out for that so that we can be able to occupy some of these positions. Because every time we have the opportunity, like we see with Dr. Antara and all the others who have mounted the global stage, we really do very well, and we leave a lot of lasting legacy there. And so on this note, if there are no remarks from Dr. Donne Ameme, and then Dr. Grace Okansi, we would want to bring it to an end. But let me give the floor to Dr. Okansi, because you collaborated with the program for us to have this. So over to you, Dr. Grace Ajua Okansi, before I go to Dr. Donne Ameme for closing remarks. George Akoya, is it possible for you to unmute Dr. Okansi?
Yes, please, she's unmuted.
Okay,
all right.
beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I'd like to thank the program so much for organizing this within the short period that we had. And thank you so much, Dr. Esther, for making the time. I know that it was within a short time. And you said at the beginning of your presentation that you were a little skeptical about it, but you've really inspired us, and we all look forward to grow in this path. Thank you so much, Chedos, for hosting this and then making it so impactful. We are really grateful. And then we continue to inspire each other. And as she suggested, the alumni try always to organize things for each other. We hope that we'll actively participate and be able to encourage each other. Thank you and have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm the chief servant. So any position you give me, I'm ready to roll. So there's a question that is burning because the person has mentioned it twice. He's called John Baffa. I know him personally, and this is where his interest is. It says, you promised to share a link, a grant link. It says, let me read it first. It says, John, what was John's first question? Then he's reminded me again, Chidos, my grant link, my grant link. So Dr. Dsani, you promised to share a link with a group. If you're not able to share it here, is it possible for you to share it on the WhatsApp page? Or you don't even know what he's talking about?
Yeah, because I was talking about an e-learning course link, not a grant link.
A grant.
But I support what Dr. Kenu said. It's a bit lonely as a Ghanaian in this circle. So colleagues, please apply.
So share the link.
Please
Once
apply.
you share the link, I'm sure most people will apply. Once you see them, kindly share on our pages for us to apply. Nice. The last word to Dr. Donne Ameme.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chidodu, and for giving me the opportunity. So I just want to say a big thank you to colleagues for joining this discussion. We've gained a lot of insights from Dr. Dsani, and also your questions and answers were also spot on. I think that this webinar is a very good reminder to us that our impact has a cross-country relevance, because the impact that you are making is not only in Ghana, and it is felt across the globe, as Esther has rightly alluded to. As a regional training program in Ghana, the Ghana FETP remains committed to training field epidemiologists for the subsequent generations, and we continue to make impact wherever we find ourselves. I can only say that this webinar will, if I have to summarize it, I will say that this is a trailblazer edition of all the webinars that we've had. Thank you very much, Esther Dsani, for making yourself available. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Donne. But you see, there's a proverb says, Sankofa, it means when you go back. So I'm just seeing the name. We have the small boy himself, Dr. Samuel Saki, with us, small boy Saki. So there's no way we can leave this meeting without hearing from him. And so Dr. Samuel Saki, just saw your name. Kindly share a word with us before we leave.
Thank you very much, Chidos.
Yes.
I'm not FELANG, but I quietly stole myself into the group to see how you were progressing.
He has unmuted, but then I don't know whether he's currently talking.
Yes, we can hear him. Dr. Saki is talking.
Yeah. So I must say that I'm really, really, really happy about how far the group has come. And as for Esther, she has surprised me a lot because she used to be very quiet. She won't talk. But now
100% right, Dr. Saki. I remember.
Her posture, her confidence, self-confidence is so evident. And I'm really proud of her. Esther, congratulations to you. And well done. May you continue to soar higher. But Esther is a shining example for all of us on the platform and those not even on the platform. That, I mean, once you set your mind to something, you can do it. You've all been given the requisite skills. It is for you to apply these skills. Prof. Kenu has said that we are not on the international scene. I believe it's because most of us are afraid that we can't meet the standard. But just look at the Nigerians. People you may be better than, for anything they will apply. But Ghanaians, I don't know what's wrong with it. So please, look out for these things. Now, make sure it doesn't matter. If you apply and you are not picked, it doesn't matter. Nobody will know that you applied and you were not picked. But once you are picked and you get there, you will see how easily you will shine. Because when we meet in the international fora, you see that Ghanaians are very good. So please, let's not shy away from it. Let's set ourselves the target that within the next 2-3 years, we'll see a lot more of us in the international scene. So that Ghana FELTP, the regional FELTP, would be seen to be a big beacon of hope for disease prevention and control on the African region. On that note, I want to congratulate the organizers and also congratulate Esther for making this evening a very memorable evening. Thank you very much. And God bless us all.
Thank you so much. Amen and amen. Thank you, Dr. Saki. So the congratulation extends to George Akowia. George Akowia is the only one man standing, sharing all the links, sharing the flyers on his status everywhere else. So George Akowia, thank you so much for making this happen. And then Bunodong Guri, Dr. Guri says, what Dr. Saki said is very, very true. We have few outside there. And so we need more people to join them outside there. All right, on that note, it's 7:01. We've been here for more than half an hour. And so I want to thank everyone who made it to this webinar. I'm sure it's recorded, so we may share the recording, the video later on with colleagues here. Thank you. I see Basil Kaburi here, Dr. Basil. I see Akia, Drua, Nyama, all of you here. Thank you for coming. I see Blessing. Charles Nura was here with us. Good day. Delia Bando, I see you. Desmond, Hamidu, Ebenezer, okay, I've mentioned. Elijah, Emmanuel Adu, Euku, Ephraim, Kwajode, Evans, Apia, Irabna, Felicia Sa, Foster, Amponsa Menu, Francis Lasana, Gladys Entry, all of you are here. Thank you all. Have a good night. Bye-bye.